Yeah.
Is it?
No, it's
Across the field and follow the waving arms.
Across the field, through welcome.
yeah, through the welcome.
Take the left first. Take the left.
Steering wheel's on the wrong side.
Just go left.
German.
Straight forward.
It's been a fantastic and memorable day here in Yorkshire. For all of us Jaguar fans, we've got a packed programme ahead of us today, which I'll give you a preview of in just a moment. But please welcome Chairman of the Jaguar Enthusiasts Club, Peter Purdom. Peter, you've been responsible for the weather today, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm responsible for nothing else unless it goes right.
Absolutely. It's been probably 3 years in the making, us coming here to Newby Hall. We first penned this in the diary for Jaguar Enthusiasts way back in 2019. Of course, we were supposed to be here in 2020. I think it's safe to say a lot has happened since then.
You could say, not all of it good. And I have to say, just for a moment at the beginning of our Jaguar Festival is an opportunity to just pay tribute to one or two people who are no longer with us, sadly. I think particularly of Ray Searles, who left us so suddenly in December. I think also of Colin Manconi, who has always been synonymous with our summer Jaguar festivals. And Mike is here and his lovely wife, and they're going to be they're in charge of the shop. But not having Colin here and not having Ray here, we just pay a little tribute to them at the beginning of the day.
Absolutely. I think it's just fitting that we remember people at the start of a day where we enjoy our common love for Jaguars, the Jaguar family coming together at this event here in Yorkshire. And also we should pay tribute, Peter, to all of the volunteers who have worked so hard to put this on, because if you're wandering around in a high-vis jacket, that means you have a part to play in today's event. So if you're listening to us, please put your hands together, give a big round of applause to all our volunteers. And it really is a volunteer-led show, isn't it, Peter?
Absolutely. We would be nowhere without, and bear in mind that directors of the club are also volunteers, and many, many others who have been involved in lots of detailed work over, as you say, a couple of years to get to the point where we are now.
Wonderful. Hi, Peter. Hello.
I remember that we've got 2 moving motor shows which are going to be taking place today, which will be really interesting. And I mentioned it in my my column in the latest magazine. The moving motor show started in Windsor in 2017. And that was some moving motor show when you're driving around the quadrangle at Windsor Castle. So we can't beat that.
Trying to get me out here, I know. That'll do, it's fine.
Go to our sponsors, Wayne, I know, is going to be going and visiting them and interviewing them and talking about the things that they do. Thank you particularly, as far as the motor show is concerned, to JDHT for some amazing cars that they brought along for you to enjoy today. So it's a great day in Prospect. It's great to have you all with us, so thank you so much for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman of the JEC, Peter Purdom. And as Peter says, we have a packed day ahead for you, so let me give you a quick preview of the action that's to come, because we start in just a moment with our Meet the Trade walkabout. I am going to go and find out where all the good deals are for you today here at Newby Hall. We're going to go and talk to all of our traders, all of our sponsors, and the people who have helped to make this event happen. So that'll be in just a moment with my amazing roving camera crew. Yes, it's true, it'll all be broadcast up here on this very big screen for you. After that, we'll have the fantastic Mark Rubery joining us for his first half-hour set at 11 o'clock. Fantastic music to come, all here in the sunshine at Newby Hall. And then we have the first, as Peter said, of our moving motor shows, Act 1 at 11:30. We're going to be telling you the story of Jaguar from 1922, the centenary this year, of course, of the foundation of Swallows, who started the whole Jaguar thing that we love and adore. We'll be telling the story of the company right from the very first Austin Swallow through to the very latest Jaguars here with our moving motor show. Cars will be parading on this tarmac in front of the stage, and there might even be the odd burnout. We never know, we'll find out later on. That's at 11:30. Also very special to have Michael Quinn here with us. He'll be driving his grandfather, Sir William Lyons' Jaguar XJ6 Mark I, courtesy of the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust. And some of the cars in that moving motor show are some of the cars that you'll usually see only in the museum, excuse me. And we'll see them here moving and revving and enjoying themselves on the tarmac. At 12:30, we'll have an interview with the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust. Tony Marigold joining me here on this stage. Ian Cooling joins us at 12:45 to talk about Jaguar Automobilia. What's selling, what isn't, where the values are, what you should invest in. It'll be very interesting. And then, of course, we have the first of our technical demonstrations as well, with Peter Stant from SNG Barrett. He'll be talking to us about fuel injection, power steering conversions, and other technical bits and bobs that you need to know about here at Newby Hall with SNG Barrett, who of course are sponsors of this event. Then at 2:15, the Moving Motor Show returns for our afternoon session, or as I'm calling it, Act 2. That's at 2:15. And then we'll have Peter Purdom back for the roundup at 3 o'clock of how the day has went, just how much fun you've had, and also to do our prize draw for those amazing Icarus Originals cufflinks that have been raffled off. But everyone who has a ticket, basically, for this event is in that raffle. It could be you going away with these lovely E-Type cufflinks that are made from genuine pistons from the genuine Jaguar E-Type. That rounds us off at 3 o'clock, of course, with live music from Mark Rubery as he returns. So welcome one and all to the Summer Jaguar Festival here at Newby Hall in North Yorkshire. Enjoy the sunshine. Please look after yourselves as well. Make sure you have your sun cream on. Make sure you have your hats on and keep well hydrated. All of those warnings that I need to tell you, but you know already. But the main thing is enjoy yourself. Of course, the Newby Hall itself is open today, as are the gardens, so enjoy yourself. We also have the big lifestyle marquee where you've got food, crafts and more. So enjoy yourselves. We'll be starting our roaming camera crew session to go and find out more about the traders in just a moment. Here in the sunshine at Newby Hall, we're going to turn the entry road to Newby Hall itself into a moving motor show as we celebrate 100 years since Swallow sidecars began to start the very Jaguar brand that we know and love today. So this is how it's going to work. Some of the best cars depicting some of the best eras in Jaguar's 100 years of history are going to be parading past these very barriers. We have the straw bales for you, so make yourselves comfortable. If you want to come and join us, come right up to the barriers. You can get as close as you like, and you can come and see some of the cars that are normally in the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust Museum behind velvet ropes, driving, revving, making some noise. And I want you to make some noise as well to make these cars and their owners feel really, really welcome. So this is a teamwork thing. You've got to make noise and then they'll make noise and we'll all work brilliantly together. So come and join us then here for the Moving Motor Show at the Summer Jaguar Festival for 2022. And as I say, this year incredibly marks 100 years since two young lads in Blackpool started something amazing. A very young William Lyons met an equally youthful William Walmsley in the back streets of Blackpool. They were neighbours, they lived very close to each other, and William Walmsley was particularly excellent at shaping alloy panels to make very special looking sidecars. 7cc engine, 4 cylinders, a side valve engine of course. It produced a whopping 10.5 horsepower at its peak revs of 2,400 RPM. They reckoned it could do 50 miles per hour, and it was priced at £187 when it was new in 1929. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it all started. It is Wapiti, and it is the Austin 7 Swallow. So let's just find a little bit more about Wapiti, and I'll just put my microphone in here. Hello sir, introduce yourself.
Tony Pearson.
Tony, this is a wonderful car. It's a car I've seen at a number of motor shows I've been privileged to commentate on, and I followed you into the show today down those wonderful leafy avenues, and it was like being transported back to 1928 itself. Is that how you feel driving it?
I've never lived in 1928, so I don't know. Yeah, I do enjoy driving it, yes.
It transports us to a time we never knew.
Was I covering you in smoke?
A little bit. I wasn't complaining, it smelled lovely. Now next up we go to the next chapter in the Swallow story. And of course, as William Walmsley and William Lyons developed their coach building techniques, so did they develop their ability to build bigger and better vehicles. This, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely stunning, I'm sure you'll agree. This was their first of their big saloons, if you like, the SS1. And it's made its way down the Moving Motor Show now. Give them a big hand as they come down. He'll carry on right the way down to the bottom, then turn round and come back to meet us, and we'll have a chat. You can see he's milking this, can't you? He's making the most of this. So there is a big change now in the Swallow Coach Building Company, and it was noted for its apparent value for money. Can you imagine what that must have meant in the 1930s at a time when very few people could afford any sort of car, let alone something as posh as this? So let's have a little chat with the owner. Hello sir, introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Michael Jewell.
Now Michael, you and I meet very often commentating on events like this, and this, ladies and gentlemen, has to be one of my favourite vehicles. This car has been in Michael Jewell's family, well, for a long, long time. It was built in 1933 on the 13th of February. It was bought by Mr. Bowden, and 4 years later it was sold to a lady called Betty Foley of Portsmouth. Now Betty is Michael's cousin, and she bought the car in the 1930s, and basically she used it right the way through to the 1960s until it was put into storage. Have I got that just about right?
You have, yeah, that's just about right, yes. And then in 1972 I owned the car. I put it into my garage and left it there until 2002, and then it went down to wheel day restorations. And it was very tired at the time, but we decided to completely hand-built it again. And the lovely thing about the car is that Bet Foley, as being a lady, didn't take anything off it. Now, if a man had owned it, I think he would have just taken this off and that off, but everything was on this car.
As SS Cars. And here's Ron Siddle in the beautiful SS1 with that wonderful aero back on it, which we'll find out a little bit more about in a moment. The chassis made by Standard, and the engine from the Standard Motor Company as well. And it'll be interesting to hear Michael Quinn's take a little bit later on when we interview him about how John Black and William Lyons got into business together. And it's Alan Sargent at the wheel. This is the smaller of the saloons. You can see how much smaller it is than the SS1 that we saw earlier on. Alan, thank you so much for jumping into the Moving Motor Show and doing this for us. Tell us a little bit about what the work is that you've done to preserve this car for us.
This is a coach built car, so basically it's just a wooden framework with the steel nailed on. I've replaced 80% of the wood because it died of woodworm and dry rot. It took 6 months to do the woodwork and 6 months to do the rest of the car. But that was 7 days a week, 10 hours a day at least, so 30,000 hours probably.
Before World War II, very, very few of them survive today, and in fact there's just a handful left in the world, this being the last of the ash-framed ones. Alan Sargent then, give him a big hand, wonderful to see that here. And hopefully we'll be now heading towards the sports car era with the next of our vehicles from the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust. But this was the first sports car of their own making, if you like, of course, the SS100. Harry Westlake was the man behind this car, of course, special with this engine and indeed this body. Of course, very famously, Norman Jewis took the XK120 and broke a land speed record in it as well on the Jaguar Highway in Belgium. And this particular car we're going to see in a moment is a very special D-Type. It's not a normal one, this is the 1954 short-nosed D-Type that was the prototype, completed in May of 1954. It travelled to France for a Le Mans test session where Jaguar Works driver Tony Rolt broke the lap record by a 5-second gap. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to be upstanding and take off your hats because we are joined by royalty, yes? This is the Queen Mum, well, the Queen Mum's car, and it is her amazing Mark 7, and at the wheel of it is Jeff Johnson. Go on, Jeff, you can carry on and turn around at the bottom, you can come back then. And here we are, we're into the saloon. And of course, it is Jaguar's Mark II joining us here on the Moving Motor Show. Continue on, sir, turn around at the top and come back and meet us. And here we are. We saw the D-Type earlier on, and in 1961, Briggs Cunningham raced a prototype at Le Mans. And that prototype eventually morphed into what of course would be launched as the road version of the Jaguar E-Type, or in America they stuck with the XK name. It was called the XKE in export markets, and this is a very special XJ6 because this, in beautiful russet brown, was Sir William Lyons' personal XJ6. This was the car he used to go from Wappenbury Hall into work every day. And at the wheel is Michael Quinn, William Lyons' grandson. Michael, it must be a great privilege to be driving your granddad's car again.
It's a massive privilege and incredible to sit in here imagining him doing exactly the same thing. Daily into work, he drove himself in this car before he had a chauffeur. And yeah, it's a wonderful evocative car and one of my favourites of all his creations.
And it's stunning as well because it is a car that began in '69 but ran for so long and had really so much success that it became Jaguar, this model, didn't it?
Well, it was instantly recognisable all over the world. It had 3 iterations, ultimately with the V12 engine, of course, and ran right through till 1986, 7, you'd probably tell me. But yeah, no, this was a hugely influential car and became absolutely instantly recognisable the world over.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be talking to Michael in just a little moment here on the live stage at the Summer Jaguar Festival. We'll have a one-on-one interview for half an hour at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So Michael can go and get himself ready for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the personal car of William Lyons. They added rubber bumpers to it and put it into the American market, and it started to look pretty ugly. And onwards they went to the XJS. But we do have one final E-Type showing how beautiful the last of the Series 3 runouts were. This is the V12 version that I mentioned before. was launched with a big hurrah, with Norman Jewis driving an XJ13 round the Myra test track in order to do the photography for the launch of this vehicle. That was the moment that Norman Jewis crashed that XJ13 famously and was very lucky to survive. This, the V12 version, the Series 3, the last of the E-types, of course, as the model made its way through the early 1970s and really was the fastest and most performance version of the E-type, and a great car to see here as well. Sir, is this your own vehicle?
Certainly is, yes.
And how long have you owned it?
Since 78.
I dread to think what it does to the gallon, but it's lovely to have a V12 in front of you nonetheless.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful car. Give them a big hand where the E-type ended with the Series 3 V12. Of course, those rear lights dropping underneath the bumper, various different styling cues are being modified and changed as they tried to modify the car for the last of its few years. And I mentioned that the XJ6 went on to all sorts of different changes with its design, and this is where it ended up in the 1980s, of course. This was the last car that William Lyons had a proper hand in designing, was the XJ40 version of the XJ6, and it heralded a new era for Jaguar because, of course, it really was the beginning of Jaguar gaining its independence again. It was leaving the big family of British Leyland vehicles. The Jaguar company had gone on its own, and it was built between 86 and 1994, officially unveiled in October of 86, to replace, of course, the Series 3, although the Series 3 carried on in V12 guise until the early 1990s. There were two designs put forward for the new XJ6 in the 1980s. Pininfarina designed one of them, but that was turned down for an internal design, and John Egan personally approved it. And really, this car was dubbed as the safest car in Britain by the motor reviews at the time, so little wonder that the police used them, this particular one from the Staffordshire police force, and the XJ40 was incredibly popular amongst police forces. Higher ranking officers would often drive their XJ40s because some of the others were left with Rover SD1s, I know, but tell us the story of this particular one.
It was purchased in 1993 by Staffordshire Police, especially for a staff car for the Chief Constable, who had it for approximately 18 months, just in plain white. It then went on to the driving school for a short period, and then ended up patrolling the M6 fully livid out.
Wow, and they were all manuals, weren't they, the police cars?
That's correct, yes, all manuals. Yeah.
Amazing. Imagine being pulled over by the Rozzers. Perhaps one of you were pulled over by the Rozzers in an XJ40 in the period, but there it is, how the XJ6 ended up between 86 and 1993. Huge numbers of XJ40 models were made, some with the fish tank lights, some with the twin headlamps, as you see here. And this was the XJ40 used by Staffordshire Police. Give them a big hand. That's why all the cars on our moving motor show have been going so slowly. Now I understand. This is 2001, 2002, when the X-Type was launched. This particular one driven by Ken Bruce, not of Radio 2 fame, don't worry, but he's owned this car from new, now covered 192,000 miles in it. Leyland, it floated itself on the stock market, it had become independent, it had become a new company, and now by the 1990s they'd sold that independent company to Ford, and Ford are starting to have their mark. Sports cars returned. First, in the late 1990s, the XK8 was launched, following the XJS, and then later on this iteration, the XK arrived in 2011. Wonderful story about this car is that it's got a wonderful V8 engine in. It's a special edition as well. They only made 75 of this type of vehicle because it was built to celebrate the 75th anniversary of Jaguar. So let's find out a little bit more about it as it joins us here on the Moving Motor Show. 523 brake horsepower, ladies and gentlemen, in this. And this is a XK75, isn't it?
XKR 75.
Okay. Get that right. 75 built to commemorate the anniversary, and it has a thumping great V8 engine in it.
Yeah, ultimate XKR for me. I was looking for an XKRS with low mileage, and I just came about this. It was owned by Jaguar Cars, and it had got 36 miles on the clock earlier this year. This is the second time I've taken it out, and the car is phenomenal. I just love the rarity. I didn't even know the XKR 75 existed until I saw this car. So yeah, it's a great piece of Jaguar history. Jaguar originally actually bought this car from the James Hall collection. We had over 500 Jaguars, and this was one of the cars in his collection. So yeah, I'm very proud to own it.
Proud to see it as well. Thank you for bringing it on. XKR 75, only 75 were built. We have one here with us at Newby Hall for the Summer Jaguar Festival. Give him a big hand. This is an F-Type SVR from 2016, and what a car it is. It looks fast, it is fast, and it sounds phenomenal. We'll hear it in just a moment. Of course, launched in 2013 with a coupe and convertible version. The F-Type had really been in gestation for about 18 years as various different prototypes. Who remembers the XK180 prototype that we saw Jaguar bring out? It was all of their various attempts to try and get to a position where they had a true successor to the E-Type. And of course the XK8 was a great successor to the XJS, but didn't have the raw sports car appeal really that this eventually brought Jaguar. The F-Type took Jaguar back into the realms of supercars once again, and this is a great example of it. The SVR version, about as quick as they come, isn't it?
It's as quick as they come. Yeah, there isn't a faster one around.
Why on earth would you buy something like this? How on earth do you live with it? How on earth do you do anything else in life other than drive it all day, every day?
It's not a daily driver. I have a Jeep that I use as a daily. This is purely a play car.
If I owned this, I'd find any excuse to go out. You want some milk? I'll take the Jag.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But, you know, there's around 330 in the country at the minute.
Lovely. It's great to have it here. Wonderful. Look at where we've come from, ladies and gentlemen. The Austin 7 Swallow of 1929, and now here in the modern day, the F-Type SVR, the pinnacle of performance for Jaguar, making sure that they're right on the edge of technology and performance at all times. It is the F-Type SVR. Give them a big hand. Sounds like we could have a bit of Jaguar racing history joining us in just a moment. But this is a very, very lovely car. XJL, of course, with the 3-litre V6 engine in it. That wonderful blue colour as well. Steve Berry driving this one. And Jaguar felt really as the XJ range went towards 2020 and another new decade that they needed a new flagship trim level. And this was the autobiography